Hello. Been a while since I've been able to go on here. Okay. Put that there. Hello, Lily. Thank you for being here. First one here. I have not been able to go live from StreamYard for a while. Right, thank you. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes for others to come in and get the live stream going. My glasses are being funky again. It has been a hot day today. I did 2 walks today, so I will probably do one this evening after dinner. Depends on how I feel. Hello, Randall Farrell, and hello, Ava. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Okay, Lily. So it is an AA meeting. I appreciate you guys being here. I just ask that be mindful of each other in the chat. If you are in the chat, people might be able to see you. If you don't feel comfortable being in the chat, I understand completely. This is a personal issue with us. So, hello, Tony. I'm glad you're here. Sorry, I confused you over this weekend. So yeah, just be mindful. Not everybody in the chat is an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic or anything like that. They might be here to support my channel. But I decided to do this because I have gained so much strength and blessings from AA to be able to give this gift for free. And my sponsor is here always. Unless she's got something that needs to be done and overrides the meeting, which is great. And felt like a meeting today. That's good. Yeah, so I started doing these because when you start AA, you are getting a gift for free, and so they suggest in the 12th step that we share what we have gained from AA. So that's why I do it. But anyways, I'm Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. We're going to get into the meeting. Hello, Peace Journey. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and get into it. If you know the prayers, you can say them yourself. But anyways, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I always put in the description what we're reading, the step or name of the story, the book, the page. I put it all in the, I think on the YouTube side it is the more spot. And please check that out. I usually, last week was not a good week because my Chromebook didn't want to work. So I wasn't able to get that out there exactly. But anyway, so we are reading the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, and we're on step 10, page 88. If you have a book, you can follow along. If not, it's all right. I'm going to read it anyways. Feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have questions about somebody's channel or whatever. Please ask that. But yeah, all these people in here have great channels, and I support them all. And anyways, so we're on step 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and we're wrong, promptly admit it. That's what I forgot to do today. Read the steps, or should I say, recite them. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made the decision to turn our will and our lives to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrong. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Yes, Lily is trying to quit smoking. I quit smoking a month and a year and a few months. Anyways, confusing. Anyways, she is trying to quit smoking, and she is coming up on her 10-year sobriety. Woo-hoo! I'm rooting for you to make it there. I know you will. Anyways, so step 10, continue to take inventory, personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. As we work the first 9 steps, we prepare ourselves for the adventure of a new life. But when we approach step 10, we commence to put our AA way of living to practical use, day by day, in fair weather or foul. Then comes the acid test. Can we stay sober, keep an emotional balance, and live to good purpose under all conditions? A continuous look at our assets and liabilities and a real desire to learn and grow by this means are necessities for us. We alcoholics have learned this the hard way. More experienced people, of course, in all times and places have practiced unsparing self-survey and criticism. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. Until he is able to admit and accept what he finds, and until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong. When a drunk has a terrific hangover because he drank heavily yesterday, he cannot live well today. But there is another kind of hangover which we all experience, whether we are drinking or not. That is the emotional hangover, the direct result of yesterday and sometimes today's excesses of negative emotion, anger, fear, jealousy, and the like. If we would live serenely today and tomorrow, we certainly need to eliminate those hangovers. This doesn't mean we need to wander morbidly around in the past. It requires an admission and correction of errors now. Our inventory enables us to settle with the past. With this, when this is done, we are really able to leave it behind us. When our inventory is carefully taken and we have made peace with ourselves, the conviction follows that tomorrow's challenge can be met as they come. Although all inventories are alike in principle, their time factor does not distinguish one from the other. There's the spot check inventory, taken at any time of the day, whenever we find ourselves getting tangled up. There's the one we take at day's end, when we review the happenings of the hours just past. Here we cast up a balance sheet, crediting ourselves with things well done and talking up debts where due. Then there are those occasions when alone or in the company of our sponsor or spiritual advisor, we make a careful review of our progress since the last time. Many AAs go in for annual or semi-annual house cleanings. Many of us also like the experience of an occasional retreat from the outside world where we can quiet down for an undisturbed day or so of self-overhaul and meditation. Aren't these practices joy killers as well as time consumers? Must AA spend most of their waking hours dearly rehashing their sins of omission or commission? Well, a great many of us have never really acquired the habit of accurate self-appraisal. Once this healthy practice has become grooved, it will be so interesting and profitable that the time it takes won't be missed. For these minutes and sometimes hours spent in self-examination are bound to make all the other hours of our day better and happier. And at length, our inventories become a regular part of everyday living rather than something unusual or set apart. Before we ask what a spot check inventory is, let's look at the kind of setting in which such an inventory can do its work. It is a spiritual axiom that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. If somebody hurts us and we are sore, we are in the wrong also. But are there no exceptions to this rule? What about justifiable anger? If somebody cheats us, aren't we entitled to be mad? Can't we be properly angry with self-righteous folks? For us of AA, these are dangerous exceptions. We have found that justified anger ought to be left to those better qualified to handle it. Few people have been more victimized by resentment than have we alcoholics. It mattered little whether our resentments were justified or not. A burst of temper could spoil a day, and a well-nursed grudge could make us miserably ineffective. Nor were we ever skillful in separating justified from unjustified anger. As we saw it, our wrath was always justified. Anger that occasionally luxury of more balanced people could keep us on the emotional jag, identified or indefinitely, sorry. These emotional dry benders often led straight to the bottle. Other kinds of disturbances, jealousy, envy, self-pity, or hurt pride, did the same thing. A spot check inventory taken in the midst of such disturbances can be a very great help in quieting stormy emotions. Today, spot checks find its chief application to situations which arise in each day's march. The consideration of long-standing difficulties had better be postponed when possible to time deliberately set aside for that purpose. The quick inventory is aimed at our daily ups and downs, especially those where people or new events throw us off balance and tempt us to make mistakes. In all these situations, we need self-restraint, honest analysis of what is involved, a willingness to admit when the fault is ours, and an equal willingness to forgive when the fault is elsewhere. Hi, Riza. We need to be discouraged, or need not to be discouraged when we fall into the error of our old ways. For these disciplines are not easy. We shall look for progress, not for perfection. Our first objective will be the development of self-restraint. This carries a top priority rating when we speak or act hastily or harshly. The ability to be fair-minded and tolerant evaporates on the spot. One unkind tirade or one willful snap judgment can ruin our relation with another person for a whole day or maybe a whole year. Nothing pays off like restraint of tongue and pen. We must avoid quick-tempered criticism and furious, power-driven argument. The same goes for sulking or silent scorns. These are emotional booby traps baited with pride and vengefulness. Our first job is to sidestep the traps. When we are tempted by the bait, we should train ourselves to step back and think, for we can neither think nor act to good purpose until the habit of self-restraint has become automatic. Disagreeable or unexpected problems are not the only ones that call for self-control. We must be quiet as careful when we begin to achieve some measure of importance and material success. For no people have ever loved personal triumphs more than we have loved them. We drank of a success as of a wine which could never fail to make us feel elated. When temporary good fortune came our way, we indulged ourselves in fantasies of still greater victories over people and circumstances. Thus, blinded by prideful self confidence, we were apt to play the big shot. Of course, people turned away from us, bored or hurt. Now that we now that we're in AA and sober, the winning back the esteem of our friends and business associates, we find that we still need to exercise special vigilance as an insurance against big shotism. We can often check ourselves by remembering that we are today sober only by the grace of God, and that any success we may be having is far more his success than ours. Finally, we begin to see that all people, including ourselves, are to some extent emotionally ill, as well as frequently wrong. And then we approach to true tolerance and see what real love for our fellows actually means. It will become more and more evident as we go forward that it is pointless to become angry or to get hurt by people who, like us, are suffering from the pains of growing up. Such a radical change in our outlook will take time, maybe a lot of time. In our outlook, sorry, we're going to read it again. Not many people can truthfully assert that they love everybody. Most of us must admit that we have loved but a few, that we have been quite indifferent to the many, so long as none of them gave us trouble. And as for the remainder, well, we have really disliked or hated them. Although these attitudes are common enough, we AA find we need something much better in order to keep our balance. We can't stand it if we hate deeply. The idea that we can be possessively loving of a few, can ignore the many, and can continue to fear or hate anybody has to be abandoned, if only a little at a time. We can try to stop making unreasonable demands upon those we love. We can show kindness where we had shown none. With those we dislike, we can begin to practice justice and courtesy, perhaps going out of our way to understand and help them. Whenever we fail any of these people, we can promptly admit it to ourselves always, and to them also, when the mission would be helpful. Courtesy, kindness, justice, and love are the keynotes by which we may come into harmony with practically anybody. When in doubt, we can always pause, saying, "Not my will, but thy will be done." And we can often ask ourselves, am I doing to others as I would have them do to me? today. When evening comes, perhaps just before going to sleep, many of us draw up a balance sheet for the day. This is a good place to remind or to remember that inventory taking is not always done in red ink. It's a poor day indeed when we haven't done something right. As a matter of fact, the waking hours are usually well filled with things that are constructive. Good intentions, good thoughts, and good acts are there for us to see, even when we have tried hard and failed. We may chalk that up as one of the greatest credits of all. Under these conditions, the pains of failure are converted into assets. Out of them, we receive the stimulation we need to go forward. Someone who knew what he was talking about once remarked that pain was the touchstone of all spiritual progress. How heartedly we AAs can agree with him, for we know that the pains of drinking had to come before sobriety and emotional turmoil before serenity. As we glance down the debt, the debt side of the day ledger, we should carefully examine our motives in each thought or act that appears to be wrong. In most cases, our motives won't be hard to see and understand. When prideful, angry, jealous, anxious, or fearful, we acted accordingly, and that was that. Here we need only recognize that we did act or think badly, try to visualize how we might have done better, and resolve with God's help to carry these lessons over into tomorrow, making, of course, any amends still neglected. But in other instances, only the closest scrutiny will reveal what our true motives are, or true motives were. There are cases where our ancient enemy rationalization has stepped in and has justified conduct which was really wrong. The temptation here is to imagine that we had good motives and reason when we really didn't. We constructively criticize someone who needed it when our real motive was to win a useless argument or the person concerned not being present. We thought we were helping others to understand him when in actuality our true motive was to feel superior by pulling him down. We sometimes hurt those we love because they need to be taught a lesson. When we really want to punish, we were depressed and complained we felt bad, when in fact we were mainly asking for sympathy and attention. This odd trait of mind and emotion, this perverse wish to hide a bad motive underneath a good one, permeates human affairs from top to bottom. This subtle and elusive kind of self-righteousness can underline the smallest act or thought. Learning daily to spot, admit, and correct these flaws is the essence of character building and good living. An honest regret for harms done, a genuine gratitude for blessings received, and a willingness to try for better things tomorrow will be the permanent asset which shall seek, or we shall seek, sorry. Having so considered our day, not omitting to take due note of things well done, and having searched our hearts with neither fear nor favor, we can truly thank God for the blessings we have received and sleep in a good conscience. So I still, even though I'm 10 years in a couple months sober, I still have those days where I want to argue with somebody. And it's not really wanting to argue about something. It's, I think I'm right. And like I was just reading, step 10, realizing, I get in arguments with my son and my dad about certain things. And I get mad. I get really mad. And but I have learned as well from doing these steps on a daily basis that I needed to make my amends right away for my part in that argument. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, my dad listens into the call. Mom answered on speakerphone, and so she always answered on speakerphone. Doesn't matter who's calling, which is good, because then my dad can hear what's going on with her and whatever. But I automatically, last argument I had with my dad, I automatically called my mom because I left. I was pissed off, and I knew if I hadn't left when I did, it would have gotten worse. Because, like, my dad and I, on this topic, we clash. And it's just something we clash on. And we've always clashed on some of the weirdest things. But this thing really got me irked. And so, but I had to call and apologize because I was supposed to take my mom to an appointment and I was a brat and I should not have acted like that. But in the same sense, I'm not making excuses. In the same sense, though, with AA, what I've learned is when I'm in that space, I have to be able to leave. I have got to be able to get out of there and just leave that situation. And that's the thing about my sister and I being neighbors. If we get into an argument, I go to my home, she goes to her home, and we're both sober now, and we both realize that, hey, we need to apologize for our part in that, and we do it. Usually, we apologize within minutes, maybe a couple hours, but that's all part of working your program. Is when you've been doing your steps for so long and you know what you need to do in that situation, it's just automatic. Um, it might take you a couple days, but it's automatic. You know what you need to do in that next step that helps you get out of that mindset. Because, yes, if we get too far into that mindset, yeah, we can go back out and drink again. And that could be a way to end up going and getting that drink. Um, before I ever went, um, before I ever went to AA, I got sober. And I didn't know all of these things. Um, just a minute. But before I started going to AA, I didn't know. I knew stuff about AA because my birth father had taken me and my sister to a meeting. It was, if I remember correctly, I know it was our father and somebody else he had with him, but we were both with him as well, and that was our first ever meeting. But I was little, and so my first meeting, my husband did the talking. I didn't want to say a word. And if you go back and you watch my vow and renewal video, my sponsor says it how it is, and she doesn't hold it back. That when I started doing the AA, I did not participate in anything. I didn't say who I was. I didn't say I was an alcoholic. I didn't have nothing to do with any of it. I was there to meet one of my old friends, and that was the purpose that I went out there for. I did not think that I would be here 10 years later doing what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this. I'd probably be out there drinking or not even here anymore. And I've learned that from going back out and drinking before I found AA, because I quit for a year and I ended up going back out. And let me tell you, you don't start at the bottom. You start right back. I mean, you don't start over. You start back at the bottom where you left off. And I was back out for well over a year. But that's what happens is you set yourself up to last X amount of time. My sponsor says, says a good thing about her sobriety, and that is her story to tell. But I got to say this part. She set herself up the first time, and she went and got arrested. And, it happens. But, you make your choices and then you learn from them. And I did. I drove drunk once, and I would never do it again. Never. That scared me to death because I don't know how I made it to where I went and how I made it back. And I don't know how people do it. It scared the crap out of me. I was like, nope, not doing that ever. And I can see what I want. Okay. But yeah, thank you, Cheryl, for being here. See you next time. But yeah, my sponsor has been here for me since after my first AA meeting. I called her. She was the third phone number I called. And you too, Peach Journey. Be safe out there. But she's been my sponsor since my first meeting, and I didn't even know I needed to get a meeting. But I'm glad that I met her and oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Um, but yeah, I get distracted easily, so you're fine. Um, she's helped me through a lot. Um, when I did my first time at step 4, um, it step 4 took me a long time, and it that one was a doozy because I had a bunch of stuff on there that had not been my fault at all, and being able to have somebody tell me that that part of my life wasn't my fault, it was something I couldn't control, and then having that person pass away, or there's been more than one. Um, that person was my blood. It just, I would not have ever made it through step 4 if it wasn't for having a sponsor. And her continually telling me to do step 4, do your step 4, get it done. And I got it done. But I seriously credit AA for why I'm so focused. And it's the best life to have, where I don't have to drink. And I'm me. I'm not somebody who is covering up the real me anymore. And that's what the alcohol did, was cover it up. And I'm glad I don't have to suffer that. And I have AA to keep me going. And I have all of you guys that support me in the sobriety journey and going through it with me. And but yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna read the daily reflection and then let y'all get back to your day. Alrighty. July 13th. I have a drug screen for work tomorrow. I go back to work on the 2nd. Tony, I will text you about it when I'm done. Anyway, humility is a gift. As long as we place self-reliance first, a genuine reliance upon a higher power was out of the question. That basic ingredient of all humanity, or humility, not humanity, ding dong, a desire to seek and do God's will, was missing. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 72. When I first came to AA, I wanted to find some of the elusive quality called humility. I didn't realize I was looking for humility because I lost my spot. I hate that because I thought I would help, or it would help me get what I wanted, and that I would do anything for others if I thought God would somehow reward me for it. I try to remember how now that the people I met, or the people I meet in the course of my day, as are as close to God as I am ever going to be, or going to get while on this earth. I need to pray for knowledge of God's will today and see how my experience with hope and pain can help other people. If I can do that, I don't need to search for humility. It has found me. Mhm. And with that, I'm going to say the serenity prayer and go make dinner. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you all. And be safe out there. Stay sober and enjoy life. Love you.